Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, August 16th, 2019. Some people have told me that they are now hearing from conservatives who are upset that the FAIRtax is adding another government entitlement with the Prebate. Now, the answer to that is no, the FAIRtax is not adding another entitlement. But before explaining why this is so, we should look at what the Prebate is and what it isn't. So, what is the Prebate and what is its purpose? Now, a tax is a compulsory contribution levied by a government. Any tax system that exempts a certain amount of income from the compulsory contribution to government is considered progressive. This means that people earning less income can purchase some of the necessities of life before their income is subject to the compulsory contribution to government. Now, even though some economists and swamp denizens don't seem to understand it, the rest of us all know that the money we have available for our family's consumption is what's left over after we deduct all of the compulsory contributions to the federal, state, and local governing entities. This means that all compulsory contributions to any government reduce the amount of money we have available for consumption. Now, one of the key elements that is commonly required of a compulsory contribution system is progressivity. Today, this simply means that a portion of a family's income is not subject to compulsory contribution, leaving the family more money for consumption. Now, the current federal income tax system tries to accomplish this by allowing people to use the standard deduction and income tax credits for children in the household. The effect of this is that a household consisting of a husband, wife, and 2 children will pay no income tax on their first $24,000 of income. Now, note that there is no such exemption from the Social Security and Medicare compulsory contributions because they tax everyone from the first dollar they earn. These taxes have no progressivity at all. This is why many lower-income families pay more in Social Security and Medicare compulsory contributions than they do in federal income taxes. Now, the Income Tax Code tries to be more progressive by providing a tax credit, meaning a reduction in the amount of income tax owed, of $2,000 for each child. This effectively decreases the compulsory contribution and increases the amount the family has for consumption. Now, the FAIRtax embraces the principle that a compulsory contribution system must be progressive like the federal income tax system. It starts by eliminating the regressive payroll tax deductions for Social Security and Medicare, and instead funds these programs through regular FAIRtax revenues. Now, instead of trying to make the existing compulsory contribution system more progressive by using complicated forms, the FAIRtax does it in a very straightforward and simple manner. While permitting no exceptions, the FAIRtax provides a monthly universal prebate to ensure that each family unit can consume tax-free up to the poverty level. Now, this actually makes the FAIRtax more progressive than the existing income payroll tax system. The monthly prebate is calculated by multiplying the annual consumption allowance as measured by the Department of Health and Human Services poverty guidelines, multiply that by the FAIRtax rate, and then divide by 12. Poverty level spending represents what it costs families of varying household sizes and compositions to buy their necessities. Now, each legal household qualifies for the prebate by sending in a form showing the Social Security numbers of their eligible members. Now, although everyone pays the same tax rate at the cash register, a household consisting of a husband, wife, and 2 children will receive a monthly prebate of $648. This will pay the FAIRtax on the first $33,820 worth of spending on new goods and retail services. Now, note that a comparison of the taxes an average family pays under the present income payroll tax system versus the FAIRtax is contained in the Chairman's Report of June 28, 2019. Now, just what is an entitlement? Webster's Dictionary defines entitlement as 1. The state or condition of being entitled, a right to benefits specified especially by law or contract, or 2, the belief that one is deserving of or entitled to certain privileges, Or 3, a government program providing benefits to members of a specified group, or the funds supporting or distributed by such a program. Now, the truth is simple. There are already entitlements built into the current federal income tax compulsory contribution system. The standard deduction and the child tax credits both fit each of the above definitions. Now, true, it's disguised through the complexities of the income tax forms, but it is providing a right specified by law because of a belief that one is deserving of or entitled to certain privileges. These entitlements are clearly provided by the IRS under the current system. Now, the FAIRtax does not add an entitlement. It simply provides the same entitlements as the current income tax system, but in a different way. The prebate may look like other entitlements where people get money from the government every month, but there's nothing new here. Under the current income tax system, when more money is withheld from you than you actually owe, you get back the difference. And that's exactly what the prebate is, a refund of money that will be collected from you that you do not owe. Now, with the FAIRtax, every worker under the present compulsory contribution federal income tax system will get more money in their pockets each pay period because the FAIRtax eliminates both federal withholding and those regressive payroll taxes. They are getting an entitlement each pay period. In conclusion, most people in the swamp and Congress like the present income payroll tax system because of the compulsory contribution that each of us has to make, and because they can directly threaten us by reducing the amount of money each of us will have for our family's consumption purposes. They do this by reducing the entitlements that they have built into the present income payroll tax / compulsory contribution system. These same people fear the FAIRtax because the entitlement is determined objectively by the Department of Health and Human Services poverty guidelines. It is not determined by who pays them the most in fees or contributions. Now, the swamp and their allies in Congress reminded me of the story about a judge preparing to hold a trial over ownership of a gold mine in the West. He opened the trial by announcing that at 7 a.m., the attorney for the plaintiff had dropped off a bag containing $5,000 in gold, and at 8 a.m., the attorney for the defendant had also dropped off a bag containing $5,000 in gold. That, he said, guaranteed that it would be a fair trial. Now, isn't it time for us to reclaim our freedom from the swamp and their allies in Congress by putting us more in control? The FAIRtax is a compulsory contribution system, but we know that with the FAIRtax, the amount that we have for our family consumption will not be determined by who gives the swamp creatures the most gold. Anyone who truly cares about the American people should say it's time to pass the FAIRtax, the only truly fair tax.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the FAIRtax, and learn why the FAIRtax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at fairtax.org or bigsolution.org.